Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So today we are doing two shlokas, 6.45 and 6.46. Prayatna jitamanas yogi samshuddha kilvishaha aneka janma samsiddhas tato yati param gatim. Translation. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. 6.46. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi jnanibhyo abhimato adhika karmibhyash chadiko yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So this is what Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna. The chapter is Dhyāna-yoga, and he's explaining various yoga, and he's giving options. And finally, we'll explain him about Bhakti yoga, the best yoga. So in the previous shloka, the emphasis is, I mean, it might take many, many births to achieve perfection, because one has to remove all his contaminations, and then he can attain the supreme goal. And in this way, the emphasis is on yogi is greater than so and so people, personalities. He is greater than ascetic, empiricist, fruitive worker. So Lord Krishna is suggesting it to Arjuna, in all circumstances, he should take to being this yogi. Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he gives detail to these shloka explanation. His explanation. He's suggesting that he's giving explanation. So pratna means rigid practice. Yatamanas to one is endeavoring rigidly for a very long time. Yogi samshuddha kilvishaha. Yogi or transcendentalist becomes free from all contamination or impurities or sins. Aneka janmas samsiddhash. It may take several lifetimes or many births. Yogi's determination is such that the determination to achieve it should go on for several lifetimes. He should be prepared. So Prabhu explains that a normal, casual, religious person has an attitude or thinking that religion is part of life, but a serious sadhaka knows that very well, that my life is part of my religion, which means that my religious practice may go on for more than one lifetime. So not that bhakti is part of life, but life is part of bhakti. So tato yati param gatim. Then one will attain the highest destination or perfection. So what is that perfection that will be described later? But here the emphasis is, the important point worth noting is aneka janma samsiddhas. It will take many lifetimes. Therefore, it is sobering, because one understands that it is a serious practice. I mean, it is one of the greatest things one can ever do after having achieved a material body. Take to the spiritual life and achieve the ultimate goal. And if one gets deviated in the serious practice, it may take many lifetimes to attain eternal position. And simultaneously, it is also illuminating, because one understands that actually if one takes to the spiritual life, then he is never lost. Even if one's practice is temporarily hindered, one will certainly find the way to again advance and progress spiritually. So this is the benefit of spiritual life, taking to spiritual life. Whatever progress we have made in spiritual life will always stay with us. we will regain and claim our spiritual progress as soon as we take birth and have a new body, and some favorable circumstances for us to advance in spiritual life will be created. It will be awarded to us one way or another. And through that, our past spiritual inclinations will again be activated. So wherever we had left it, whatever our inclinations were, whatever our understandings, conclusions were, will those impressions, it will again be activated. The conclusion to all this is that a sadhaka, a practitioner, understands that it is one's supreme fortune to be able to make spiritual advancement and return back to God, to Lord Sri Krishna. So irrespective of how many lifetimes it will take, and if one has that understanding and determination, then determination itself will, accelerate one's spiritual practice. One will be enthusiastic to again proceed in that, to continue in that progress. The Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives this example. Like in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is an incident wherein Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished Mukunda, one of his followers, by saying that he chastised him for something, and he said that by saying that he will not be able to see, he told him as a punishment by that he will not be able to see Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 10 million lifetimes. Hearing this, Mukunda was so jubilant that it is only 10 million lifetimes, and after that I will be able to be with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that thought, he started dancing that it is only 10 million lifetimes, and he'll have the benefit of being in association or seeing Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Mukunda's such an optimistic attitude, that he's having so much faith in him, for the sake of seeing me, he's ready. He's saying that 10 million lifetimes is nothing. Then Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased. He said, bring him here, bring him to me. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him his mercy. So this is the determination Prabhu is trying to emphasize. So when one has that kind of determination, that one, no matter what, how much price, one has to pay for attaining Lord Sri Krishna, progressing in spiritual life, achieving the final goal, anything and everything is worth, because that attainment is so glorious. The final goal, not just the process, not just the journey, that attainment itself is so glorious, so wonderful. It is so completing, it is so fulfilling that nothing is like that. Nothing is better or greater than that. Then it will be with us forever. So whatever the price it is worth it. And when one has that kind of right attitude, determination, one makes rapid spiritual advancement. And one doesn't have to take aneka janma samchiddhas. That is especially, he doesn't have to take so many births, especially by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada. It is possible to attain in one lifetime and return back to Godhead, to Lord Sri Krishna, and serve in our eternal seva. So in the next shloka, Prabhu gives detail that in this shloka, it is more focused on the topmost yogi fixes his mind on Lord Sri Krishna. Yogi, he gives details, which Srila Prabhupada's translation. A yogi is greater than the tapasvi, an ascetic, a person who performs austerities. Tapasvi bhyo adhiko yogi. A yogi is greater than the jnani or empiricist. A jnani bhyo api mato adhika. And yogi is greater than the fruitive worker or karmi. One performs karma. Karmibhyas chadiko yogi. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So, if yogi is greater than everything, greater than tapasvi, ascetic, empiricist, fruitive worker, then Arjuna, the Lord Krishna is suggesting it to Arjuna, the best deal is, no matter what, the best deal is to be a yogi in all circumstances. That is the best option. So in this chapter, Lord Sri Krishna seems to be very strongly emphasizing or endorsing yoga. So the chapter is yoga, or the Dhyāna-yoga. So Lord Krishna is giving explanation on yoga to Arjuna. At the same time, he's talking about a yoga which leads to a particular perfection. So here the word yoga primarily means connection with the absolute truth. So having a connection with the absolute truth through yoga, whichever yoga one chooses, one might follow, practice, adopt, having a connection is more important than just doing the austerities, than just cultivating knowledge, jnana, or just doing work, karma, right? Having connection is more important. Connection with the absolute truth, the Supreme Lord. So the point here is that connection with the absolute truth is preferable to any other thing which, no matter what one may consider, which one can, one chooses, which you may consider spiritual, whatever you choose, of those options, connection with the absolute truth is preferable. So that is the important thing than choosing any other thing. So connection is the keyword here, and yoga means connection. And Srila Prabhupada gives more emphasis. He emphasizes this point very clearly when he says that when we speak of yoga, we are referring to linking our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. And this linking or connecting our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth is possible through various processes, right? Various yoga processes. Here, Srila Prabhupada is talking about what are the problems which are associated with other processes. And he is going to finally lead us to one process, and he is going to show us the limitations of other processes, related, the so-called yoga processes. What are the problems or limitations of those yoga processes compared to one which he's saying is the best? So asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect, is one of the options, which means one is performing austerity, but one is not connecting one's inner reality or supreme reality, which is Krishna. So self-knowledge refers not only to knowledge of Atma, but also to Atma as part of Supreme. So mere asceticism is not of much use. It may be useful in improving one's health, but from transcendental perspective, from transcendental point of view, it is not of much use. So, so this is how it is. So Prabhu gives example of King Kulashekara Maharaja. He says, it is given in Mukunda Mala Stotram, that without remembrance of Lord Shri Krishna, fasting, that is austerity, performing austerity, is simply an exercise for removing fat. He's giving that. This is what King Kulashekara Maharaja says in his Mukunda Mala Stotra. So it is not going to lead to any spiritual advancement in itself. There might be other benefits. There are people who fast for health benefits, just like we have Japa retreat. Prabhu is saying that just like we have Japa retreat and yoga retreat, there are certain doctors who organize fast retreat, which is a subset or derivative of natural therapy. And it may be popular with some people, and it may also be effective on physical level, body level, gross body level. There are studies which indicate that some people, with certain incurable diseases were cured after fasting for a certain amount of time. So people may fast for health benefits. But this kind of austerity has nothing to do with spiritual realization. So one has to have knowledge why one is doing this austerity, the ultimate knowledge, ultimate benefit. So that spiritual knowledge behind performing this austerity is very essential, and not just for material gains. So spiritual Prabhupada says this, asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Yes, the ability to the capacity or to be able to practice asceticism, austerity is useful on the spiritual path. That is sure, but this asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. So one has to have knowledge behind why one is doing this. What is the ultimate benefit? What is the best thing one can get out of this, performing this austerity? So one has to have that spiritual knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada did recommend devotees to perform tapasya, austerity on days such as Ekadashi. So he did emphasize that. So we understand that fasting or yoga is not our primary goal. Our primary goal is Krishna consciousness. and that we want to make spiritual advancement and return back to Godhead, back to Lord Sri Krishna. So along the way, whatever is required to keep our body healthy, we may practice that, because you need this body to perform, achieve your this primary goal. So then Srila Prabhupada makes his next point: empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. The empiric knowledge is this knowledge related to impersonalism, right? Empiric knowledge is not jnana. Generally, jnana or knowledge leads to the conception that I am God, right? You will find this is a very popular trend. You have so much of people who believe in this thing. Aham Brahmasmi. People say that, people follow that. The conception of Brahma may be different among different people, but quite often conception is that this is what people who follow them, these impersonalists, they are wrongly led to believe at a later stage that they themselves are also absolute truth. And this is all incorrect. This is imperfect. So this empiric knowledge without surrender to the supreme knowledge is also imperfect. So this so people can be very wrongly led into believing that about this impersonalism, and they can waste their entire life because all this is wrong. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. We don't say this is the highest level of there are three types of realization. One is Brahma Jyoti realization, then there is Paramatma realization, and there is Bhagwan realization. And people who, this is a teaching of Lord Sri Krishna as Bhagavad-gītā. In all three, it is actually Lord Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord. If the impersonalists teach that, Aham Brahmasmi, then this is all incorrect. This is imperfect. In all the three cases, it is Lord Sri Krishna who is the absolute truth. One's practice might be different, the levels might be different, but in all the cases, it is Supreme Lord. Lord Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are always servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We, Jiva Atma, are always servant of Lord Sri Krishna, Bhagwan. Who is Bhagwan? Lord Sri Krishna is Bhagwan. We are always servant. We are infinitesimal part and parcel of Lord Sri Krishna. So one can choose whatever, but one can choose Brahma Jyoti realization, which is the lowest level of realization. Then there is Paramatma realization, which is better than that. And in Bhagwan realization, you have all three, Satchitananda realization. So, and the perfect realization is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is Bhagwan, and we are always, eternally, we are always his servant. So, empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. That is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say. So, Srila Prabhupada is mildly critical of this, and he is not saying that it is useless, it is imperfect. So, fruitive work, next he says that, and fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. People who take to Karma Yoga. So, fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. He's very critical here. So generally we do some labor for some fruits, but if there is only labor and no fruit, then it is useless. So Prabhupada translates that Shrama eva hi kevalam as waste of time, fruitive activities. So again, one has to have knowledge, perfect knowledge. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga. And this is what Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suggested for Kali Yuga. And this is still more clearly explained in the later verses. So now, after describing this, giving detail to this path of yoga, there are different yogis, and some are impersonalists, some are personalists, some do different some do different yoga practices. So these different yoga practices may have different conceptions. So Lord Krishna is giving a endorsement for yoga in general, and he will finally lead one to Bhakti Yoga. And he suggests or recommends this Bhakti Yoga. But what is implying here is by yoga, to understand that we have to look at, we will get more detail in the next verses to this about Bhakti Yoga, how this is the best. So yoga means connection with the Supreme Lord. So So Prabhu actually is trying to warn us against something. Be very mindful of something. There are many yoga teachers who want to endorse that Bhagavad-gītā recommends yoga, and they quote this verse 6.46, and then they don't quote 6.47, and it gives an illusion, of that other yoga processes are the best, or one can choose whatever yoga. Whereas 6.47 will give detail to Bhakti Yoga as being the best. So Krishna says yoga is the best path in 6.46. Why? And that's Krishna will give detail later. So Krishna says better than tapasvi is yogi, better than jnani is yogi, better than karmi is yogi. So yoga is best path. No, that is for sure. So all should follow yoga, right? Actually, Lord Sri Krishna says that what kind of yoga one should be. Then, if you refer to the next verse, you will get that detail that Bhakti Yoga is what Lord Sri Krishna is referring to being the best of yoga. So one needs to be very critical when people just put people into illusion by just limiting, giving 6.46 and not getting into detail of 6.47, where Bhakti Yoga has been emphasized as being the best. And Srila Prabhupada has also emphasized this thing, right? So Krishna is definitely referring to yoga, but if one looks into that, what he's recommending is in this context is that we come to know that he's not recommending yoga as sadhana yoga in Ashtanga process, but he's giving yoga as a method of connection with the Supreme Lord, and connection should be with personal absolute truth, which will be given more. We'll get more detail in the next verses. So. Thank you, Prabhuji Mataji. Thanks for joining. We'll get more detail into Bhakti Yoga, which is the recommended process of Kali Yoga, and other processes which were for previous yogas become very difficult in this, in this yoga. So it is best to take to Bhakti Yoga. And so thank you, Prabhuji Mataji. Thanks for joining. Please join again tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thanks.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Hare
Dandavat.
Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, log off for the day.